Welcome to the Optimal Bio podcast. At Optimal Bio, we don't just balance your hormones, we balance your whole body. Our conversations range from nutrition to medicine with an emphasis on wellness tips to support your health journey. If you like what you hear, find us on the web at optimalbio.com and follow the podcast so you don't miss an episode. Thank you for joining another episode of the Optimal Bio podcast. Today, I'm so excited to be joined by the owner and doctor of Trinity Life Center in Holly Springs, North Carolina, Dr. Jason Day. Thanks for being here today.
Hey, everybody.
All right, I always like people's beginnings, why did you become a chiropractor? So let's start there of your background and what led you to being a chiropractor.
So the foundational story, I guess, and again, I love talking about other people, but I will give you a little background on myself. I grew up, in the Southeast and did very well in school. So, if you do well in school, a lot of your parents, a lot of your relatives and family and friends are telling you, oh, you're going to be a doctor one day. So that just was planted early on in my mind that, hey, you're going to be a doctor. And as I got towards closer to that, high school and college, there was actually a panel that I was doing pre-med looking at that, blissfully detached of what true health is and how the body works, just thinking I want to be some type of healthcare practitioner. But I remember this, they did a panel interview of medical doctors and they were talking about basically they don't come up for air till they're 35 years old. They're in class rotations and schools just basically indentured service to this healthcare system. And I was like, I want a family. I need more freedom. And one of my highest ideals, not in a cheesy patriotic way, is freedom. I want to create freedom in my marriage, in my children's life, in my finances, in the patients that we're serving. And I started looking at chiropractic from a more natural stance, but the idea of ownership in the business and being able to run and secure and create my own destiny was big to me. So that's how I got into chiropractic. But once I was in, literally the first week, I got exposed to this philosophy that health comes from you, not to you. It's not a pill or a potion. It's not some outside influence. It's an inside phenomenon. And we started peeling back the layers of truth about how the body works. It made a radical shift in my mindset, my understanding. And I was just all in from that point. And then from there, we can expand on that. But that's how I basically stumbled into this thing called chiropractic. But yeah, from school and mission trips and practice, it's been this life-changing phenomenon in my life and creating that freedom for others too.
And you talk about freedom, if you don't have your health, the rest of your freedoms are going to be impacted, right? Because your health impacts everything, how you interact with yourself, your family, your friends, your job. And I think people forget that or don't think about it or maybe take advantage of it. When you are healthy, whatever that may be mean for you, and then that started slowly taken away, that's where all your focus is going to be. You're not going to have the time, energy, what you may have for other spots in your life.
Yeah, it doesn't matter where you're at, no matter your age, your circumstances, your financial abilities. You're not going to get to that next level or any level without your health. And I mean, oddly enough, I've got a MacBook computer here and God rest his soul, Steve Jobs, brilliant man, brilliant entrepreneur, had every resource at his fingertips. He lost his health. He lost everything. And actually the tagline for our office, I love that you say this, is choose freedom, choose life. And what we're saying is we have to find ways to choose life. And that begins with an understanding of how life and health works, how the body works. And that's something we're going to be diving deep to, I'm sure, in this podcast, because it's a passion, it's a purpose of let's answer that most important question, why? Not just where the symptoms are, how they affect you, all these random different questions. But if we don't address the why in our marriage, in our health, in our life, in our kids, and in our country, it's we're not really addressing the root problem. And that's one of the major flaws in modern healthcare. And thank God for it. I'll probably share a story of how modern healthcare really impacted my family in a positive way this year. It's rare in my family that we need medical intervention, but this year it was a big deal. It was the second time in my family's history that we had to use that medical system, but we don't rely on it because there's not freedom in there. There's a time and place for medications, but with that reliance and dependence on it is leading to the slavery that is our sickness of our country right now. So
exactly. That's why I always say, I am so thankful I'm in America. If I need surgery, if I get hit by a car, I am so thankful. But that reliance, and like you said, No one's asking why. You go in with a headache, they look at, oh, here's a migraine medicine, not what are you eating? How are you working out? How's your inflammation, right? Let alone, I know that's something you talk about asking why. I ask why for anything. Like it could be the smallest thing. I'm just like, so why did that happen, right? Just trying to connect the pieces. But also, I think we forget how incredible our bodies are. Like our bodies are truly incredible. We just need to give it the right things, ask the right questions, and be our own advocates.
Yeah, there's a famous saying within chiropractic, like this whole thing that chiropractic was it was discovered like in the late 1800s, and I don't want to you want to get in a history lesson here, but one of the founding statements is the body does not need help; it just needs no interference. And there's a time and place with injuries, like we need help. But my point is, like so many of health challenges are 100% caused by our choices. And it's like we have to look at those choices, but so much of healthcare, they stop at the symptom, they give it a fancy name or diagnosis, and they prescribe a pill for that. And even in like the crunchy world, like in our world, like so often we arrive at a symptom, and they're like, oh, that's a gut issue. And I'm like, oh, we're so close, but what controls the gut is the brain and the nervous system. So often when we're peeling back those layers, whether it's adrenal fatigue or anxiety or ADHD or gut issues, if you keep peeling back the layers, keep asking why, and not stopping till you get to that, I can't peel back another layer. So often that foundational piece is the nervous system. And that's where chiropractic comes in. And that's one of the major misperceptions in our profession, perpetuated by chiropractors. I take responsibility for it, but we want to change the conversation because we want to change the statistics facing our kids and but we can talk about the kids first. This is straight CDC. And this is pre 2020. I'm sure it's actually even gotten worse, but 1 in 5 children have a defined mental disorder. 1 in 6 children have a chronic illness that's typically managed, sometimes for a lifetime with medication. 1 in 9 to 10 children have asthma, which is allergies as well. And it's like so many of these challenges just keep popping up. And like I think 1 in 36 children have autism now, and that's a hot and spicy topic too. Now, like we don't have to go, and so often people are like, well, that's a genetic thing. That's genetics. That's genetics. Our genetics haven't changed that much in how long? I mean, you can probably go back 500 years, 1,000 years, and we have the same genetics. But let's not go back that far. Let's go back to the early 1980s when I was a little kid, running around. There was the CDC says that autism rates were 1.5, 1.5, and 100,000. To me, that seems like a best lowball guess of like maybe it exists. And we fast forward to today, and the only thing we can get from our medical community is this self-congratulatory pat on the back. We're better at diagnosis, as if a mother in 1982 didn't know her child had autism. What a wildly disparaging, discouraging, like insensitive comment towards moms and dads and teachers, like as if we were that oblivious and we needed them to come figure this out for us. Like something's shifting out there, and it's not our genetics. There's been almost a 40% increase in pediatric cancers since the 1980s. And if we look at people under the age of 50, which is considered young, like not old people, like cancer back in the day was like this. Maybe really old people got it at the last moments of their life, but that's almost increased. I can't remember the exact number. I just was looking at it. It's right around 80% increase since the 1980s. Like something's horribly wrong out there that young adults and pediatric population, our kids are facing this. And it's a tough question because a lot of time the answer ends in the mirror. And that's what most people don't want to look at. And I'm not blaming parents. I'm not blaming doctors. I'm not blaming anybody. But when we realize what the problem is, we can actually move forward with solutions. And that's what I'm obsessed with.
And that's the thing because we see all of these like common symptoms, chronic illnesses, chronic cancer rates as normal, right? Because that's just who we're surrounded with. And I say that all the time. I'm like, I don't feel like I was in high school that long ago. And I didn't know anyone with allergies, with anxiety, depression, autism. And so, why is it so rapidly changing? But I think you hit the nail on the head. So many of these things, it's your responsibility, right? Like, we treat hormones at Optimal Bio, which are the, foundation of your health. But then we talk about like wellness and, how to eat, how to move. Then it's like, oh, because they have to do it, right? Is that responsibility? And so, why do you think, we see these increases in autism, pediatric cancers, chronic illnesses, in such a rapid change since the 1980s?
So there's a common theme that, and I would encourage your audience not just to check us out at Trinity Life Center in Holly Springs, but there's a movement and a groundswell within pediatric chiropractic spaces. And one of the spear tip on this is pxdocs.com. My closest friend, Dr. Tony Ebel, we've been best friends in text and daily for over a decade. We've been having these conversations, and he's creating more of a national movement that's educating and empowering parents. And one of the phrases that we've been giving our workshop for over a decade together, called the perfect storm. And the thing is there's no soapbox under me right now. There's not one thing causing autism, one thing causing cancer. There's a myriad of stressors. There's physical stressors, chemical stressors, and emotional stressors. And if we keep peeling back the layers, so often it's not what the baby, the 3-year-old, the 5-year-old's facing. It's what a mother's facing preconception, conception, and as well as during the pregnancy. And basically, like, pregnancy, and Dr. Brandon could speak volumes to this, and we had a very spicy conversation around this. Pregnancy in America is treated as a pathology. It's almost as if the woman's losing a life instead of creating life. The baby's treated more as a tumor than it is a child. And it's like, how many tests can we run to figure out what's going wrong on this pregnancy? How many stress and interventions? But one of the things Dr. Tony Ebel at PX Docs and I talk about all the time is birth interventions and birth trauma. I have 5 boys, believe it or not. Our 5th was born via adoption. And I just want to give this as a firsthand experience. This isn't just something I read in a study. This is something we've been through personally. But with our first 4 children, we were blessed, and we actually lived in the Netherlands. I'm throwing a lot of curveballs. Like,
Oh, I want to talk about Europe. Oh, we're coming back to Europe. No worries.
so home births are incredibly common in the Netherlands. And it wasn't because I'm some crunchy granola packing chiropractor that wanted to have a home birth. It was like when in Rome type of thing. And we lived right next to that. But just as a concerned brand new parent having our first and second child in the Netherlands, we did our research. Of course, as parents, we want to give the best possible. But something that stuck out to me is the Netherlands consistently for decades ranks number 1 or number 2 in pre and post baby and mother, like, morbidity statistics and health statistics. They're doing something right there. And if we want to talk about America's numbers, let's just grab a drink, because it's a depressing conversation. It's bad. Like, it's very, like, we consistently rank somewhere in 40 to 50 range. And I mean, most of this intelligent audience probably couldn't name 45 other countries. Like, that's a lot of people in front of us.
In what's supposed to be like the most civilized Western civilization has the best care, right?
Yeah. So we had these amazing home births with our first 4 kids, 2 in the Netherlands and then 2 here in North Carolina. And just to put it in perspective, these weren't, like tiny babies. Like, my wife is a superstar. Our babies were all in the 9-pound range. Our 4th baby was 10 and a half pounds, 24 inches. Like, he was a toddler with overalls and a sippy cup when he came out. Like, he was a big baby. And she did that perfectly natural at home. But that is a testimony to how amazing, like, the female body is. And let's take a little detour. I promise you we were going to do something. I'm going to circle back to my adopted son, because this is a really important transition here. But did you know that the saliva of a baby communicates with the breast tissue of a mother? So if that baby needs some vitamin K, magnesium, vitamin D, if it's fighting a cold, it's exposed to nutrient, like, that spit is going to communicate with the mother, and her breast milk is going to create a perfect formula for her child. That blows my mind. And the idea that we can improve on that system might be the height of arrogance in humanity. No, let's create a formula that's better for that. And again, thank God for formulas, because our 5th, who was adopted. But I look at the perfect storm, the myriad of stressors, physical, chemical, and emotional stressors that pregnant moms and babies are facing. So I can imagine the emotional stress this birth mother of Silas, our 5th, had to go through to make the right decision. Sometimes stressful things in life are right. Like, it's not just bad decision. Like, no, like, stuff happens. So she had the emotional, neurological stress of a mother being translated to the baby. A birth intervention saved my son's life. I'm not bashing C-sections, thank God for them, but the medical literature tells us, this is straight medical fact, no opinions here, that the average C-sections put upwards of 60 or more pounds of pulling on a baby's neck and brainstem. And again, saved my son's life. But my son had severe torticollis. His head was stuck over here and rotated away. The pressure and pulling on his cranium with the vacuum extraction, misshapen his head, not to just where some clinician could see maybe a subtle change, where grandmothers were like, oh, gosh, what's going on with his head? And his eyes were crossed. So the medical role would say, oh, let's stretch that muscle. Let's slap a helmet on him. And maybe we'll do some, optical therapy down the road. But every one of those things is a neurological red flag. What controls the muscle tone is the nerve. What controls the head shape is the cranial tension, and eyes are controlled by the nerves too. So if we physically assault, even good with good intentions, a baby's neck and brainstem, this is ground zero for the fight or flight response. We're not talking about biomechanics or muscles during fight or flight. And this is such a powerful conversation that I went through, not just with my child, but thousands of kids we're helping. We're going to connect some dots here, but the fight or flight spectrum is not necessarily a bad thing. If I'm out on my farm, which is right back here, and a bear jumps out to chase me or something, I'm going to be running from the bear. Now, during fight or flight, my muscles tighten, my hormones are surging like adrenaline and cortisol, my thyroid is banging on all cylinders, my blood pressure goes up, my digestive system, immune system, and sleep system, let's turn those off. Those aren't that important if I'm running from a bear. My senses heighten exponentially so I can see better, hear better, sound better. But let's put this all together in one sentence. The fight or flight spectrum is the spectrum of spectrum challenges. ADHD, autism, sensory challenges, objectional defiance, anxiety. These are all a brain and nervous system that got stuck, thrust, and overwhelmed in that fight or flight spectrum. And it happens to babies that are 5 seconds old. C-sections, even if necessary, are still tough on a baby's neck and brainstem. They can alter genetics, resetting the genes to high in fight or flight for life. It alters brain chemistry, adrenals. So some people say, well, what is that? How does the digestive system? And we've all had stressful moments as adults. See the cop behind you in your rearview mirror lighting you up, that type of, you feel it in your gut. Get that horrible phone call. These are emotional. These aren't even real threats. You feel it in your gut. But if a baby's neck and brainstem is overwhelmed, colic, reflux, constipation, is that common? And what do we do for that? Miralax. Yeah, and it's like, oh gosh, there's actually a website or a Facebook page called Mothers Against Miralax because it's a neurotoxin.
Whenever I see Miralax, I mean, so many things, but I have gut issues, so I'm very sensitive to that. But the other day, I saw a commercial for Miralax for babies, and I'm like, wait, no. One, why is a baby constipated? And then like you said, it's a neurotoxin, but people don't realize that, right?
And we can't blame their diet. Like if my stomach hurts, I probably ate something stupid. But it's like with babies. So you get this baby that's their brainstem and nervous system's overwhelmed. They're stuck in fight or flight. They're not going to be sleeping as well. They're not going to be digesting food as well. And now the mother's having trouble with latch, and they go to their pediatrician. And they say, well, maybe it's your milk. And it's like, dear God, do we need to have that spit conversation again about how brilliant like breast milk is? It doesn't make any sense. But now they're not sleeping well. Their gut's off. Over 70+% of our immune system's in our gut. And the immune system tanks during fight or flight. It's not important to fight a cold or an ear infection if I'm about to fight that bear. So the immune system gets suppressed. And what do we do for chronic ear infections, even though they're viral? Antibiotics. So we further disrupt the gut microbiome, which is our immune system, further disrupting that nervous system. So now we have a child that's not sleeping, not digesting their food, which is so much more than a gut issue. That's where our blood is formed in our small intestines. You have a chronically constipated, inflamed, sleepless child and mom, because they're not sleeping with them. Now they're on antibiotics, and now they're not talking. Now they're not progressing. They're not hitting milestones. And at 5 years old, 5 years wasted of neurologically focused chiropractic care or some type of intervention that's asking, why is this happening? You get the diagnosis of sensory challenges. Well, of course, my senses are heightened if I'm running from a bear, but my brain can't process that sensory input. So they call it a sensory processing disorder. And again, I have relatives and family members that are medical doctors. Thank God for their life-saving work, but we need some life-giving work too. And one of the most important questions we ask is why? Like, why are these digestive challenges? Are we going to blame a mother's breast milk? Like, why is my child not sleeping? Like, why are they constantly having runny noses? And then we try and blame a daycare, or we blame an aunt for giving them a kiss. And it's just like, no, they don't have an immune system because it's literally been assaulted, the immune system in our environment. So, I mean, now they're 5 or 6 years old, and we look at the top 10 kid favorite foods. It's probably 10 things I probably shouldn't feed my dog. And again, there's a lot of disruptive things coming into Washington, and I'm happy for it. Like, it's so broken. We need some disruptors in there. But I've had personal friends and leaders within the crunchy world of healthcare just celebrating and fighting against Kellogg's to make better Fruit Loops. And I've always, and again, great. Like, I want better ingredients in my food. I want toxicity out of it. But at the end of the day, Kellogg's is not making healthcare decisions for my family. I am. Like, I'm stocking my pantry not with Kellogg's, I made that choice. So again, just because Kellogg's makes better decisions, is parents have had the opportunity to make that decision all along, and that's the tough part because it's like, yes, I want better ingredients, but like we have to find better resources. But when you realize that a lot of times the source and solution to all the problems is us as parents and individuals, that should be an empowering thing, not a disheartening thing. Yeah.
Completely agree. And like what you just described, I think sometimes too, the vagus nerve, people say it's like a woo woo thing, right? And like you just described how it touches every,
I love that you said Vegas server. I'm going to geek out with you here. That's, yeah.
yes, fully immersed. Because I kind of went through my own health journey, even though I thought I was healthy, right? So I have gone through the whole thing. But what you just described, if you were in fight and flight since before birth, right? And then all the antibiotics, the everything's the formula that, yes, thank goodness for formula, and there's some great ones out there, but the majority, the first ingredient, seed oils. So now you're pumping your infant with seed oils and whatever other chemicals. And it's just, I love how you said life giving because in like when as you're talking, I'm like, how can you be in every pediatrician office? Because if I was a mom, I'm not a mom, and being a new mom, right? There's so many like you're nervous, you don't know what the right thing to do is, but if you can have that conversation with every new parent of explaining what may be going on and how we can fix it and the ramifications that you'd be mitigating down the road. I mean, how valuable is that? Like you came in, put a number on it.
Oh yeah, and here's another like nerdy neurological fact that I learned postdoctorate, kind of along with the breast milk thing. A child's brain and nervous system is going to grow and develop more in the first 3.5 years than the rest of their life combined. Getting these first 3.5 years right or better is not just about, oh, they sleep better, their colics under control. It's like you're changing the very trajectory of their life. And again, that's not putting us on a pedestal. It's putting the opportunity on a pedestal to have radically healthier kids. But if we get real, raw, and relevant, like what happens to a kid in those first 3.5 years, you couldn't have a more thorough checklist of physical, chemical, and emotional stressors ever. And it's just like, and we want, and again, this is that real conversation of like something is driving these horrible numbers out there. And it's a lot of things. It's this perfect storm. And that's where this conversation about neurologically focused chiropractic comes in. I'm not a back doctor. I'm not a pain doctor. Again, we help with those things. And that's one of the major misperceptions about our profession because honestly, and this is full transparency, my profession sold out to insurance companies in the 80s because they got reimbursed very well if they just talked about back pain, neck pain, and headaches. Good on them. Yeah. So, I mean, that's just not our message. But if we look at the nervous system as a whole, about 10% of that pie, 10% of that pie is pain. So if we look at the nervous system's functions, the trillion things it does every minute of the day, about 10% is pain related. And that's why heart disease, diabetes, cancer, MS, a lot of things can fly under the radar because even though your nervous system is dying with these types of things, you don't always feel it. And that's why we're having this conversation. It's like, yes, we care about it. If you have aches and pains and headaches, that's devastating. It's life ending for some people, the pain that they go through. But so much of modern healthcare is like, well, how do we sedate from the symptom? How do we take the fire alarm out of the batteries instead of addressing the fire? And again, we don't just sedate with medications, we sedate with Starbucks, with Netflix, with pornography, with alcohol. We're just living this life of disconnect when God's created us to feel. Like, I want to feel everything when I'm hanging out with my kids, my wife. And again, if I put my hand on a burner, I need to know that that hurts because I need my hand. I don't want to just numb the pain of it. It's like I need to know. And life hurts sometimes, but that's part of the healing process. Like we're the only animal on a planet, that tries to just avoid the lesson that pain gives us. It's frustrating. And again, I don't like there's a time and place to manage pain and these types of things, but it's like pain is a gift. Like we need to know how to not just manage that, but learn from it and create some wisdom around it rather than just unplugging and sedating and not feeling a life that was meant to be felt out loud.
Exactly, because these symptoms are our body is trying to tell us something. You don't just magically get cancer one day. It's been in your body probably for 7 years, right? And there's so much work and studies that show by changing your diet, right? We always have cancer cells in our body, so we can kill them off. But And so that's why our body's trying to send us these messages, whether it's fatigue, acne, joint pain, headaches, trying to tell us there's something to hopefully, mitigate it. Not even that won't even show up that may have been in your body.
Yeah. And cancer is like your body's best attempt. And there's layers to this conversation. Obviously, it's not a universal statement, but it's your body's best attempt to compartmentalize a horrific stressor on your life. Ultimately, it's your immune system's inability to adapt to whatever stressors are hitting, whether they're chosen or not. That's what cancer is. And the immune system is not just in the gut. One of the first immune system organs is actually our tonsils. Now, there's a lot in between here, but one of the last ones is the appendix. Like these are very functional, important organs in the immune system, and they are the first to be lopped out every time a child has a runny nose. Yeah, and again, we're like we go back into that perfect storm. We have a child, of course, their immune system's shot, like all these different stressors, and like of course their tonsils are going to be swollen because it's trying to fight back. Like, let's take them out, Yeah, and then it's like, oh, your appendix is, let's take it out. And we wonder why the cancer rates are skyrocketing. And again, it's like if that had to happen, I had a friend who the appendectomy saved his life. I'm not saying you shouldn't have it. It's like there's a time and a place. But man, I am on him. Like we have to work on this immune system long term because I want you around for a long time.
Yeah, it's like sometimes you have to cut, but that should be the last option. And when now it's the first go to, especially when you're talking about kids' immune systems and just all the rates of if you're going to have antibiotics before you're the age of 5, the anxiety and depression that you could see later in life. And it's like they're on so many rounds of antibiotics and then they get their tubes and it's just, and then they're eating red dye 40. And it's like you said, going back to all the sensory issues that could be managed, healed if we know what's going on.
For sure. Yeah.
When you see patients, kind of where do you start with them? And yeah, we'll start there.
Yeah, I look at it this way. There's so many pieces to the puzzle when it comes to our health. There's our physical health, what we do with our body, our biochemical health, that's what goes into our body, food, nutrition, those types of things, and then our emotional and spiritual health. But the puzzle is never going to come together unless there's a foundation. And the foundation or the table that the puzzle is going to come together on is a brain and nervous system that's adapting and healing. So that's our starting point with everybody. And I've already spoken to the complexity of the nervous system. It does billions of things every second. How do you quantify? How do you measure that? We have a technology that is medically based. And I put it in that regards. It's not something I invented in my garage. Like there's a lot of research to back this up, but we're looking at that nervous system from multiple angles to ask the question, why? Like what could be driving these symptoms and how do we lay a foundation so that hopefully these puzzle pieces will come together if you choose to put them together. So with it's called an insight scan. There's more information on our website and pxdocs.com. The insight scan is 3 different tools that we use with everybody, babies included. It's a non-invasive technology, meaning no radiation or MRIs or anything like that. We're not looking at the structure, the bones of the spine. We're looking at the neurology and nervous system underneath it. So one of the primary functions of the nervous system is to regulate our temperature. Thermography measures the temperature on both sides of the spine all the way up to the brainstem. The temperature should be about the same, but if there's a big inflammatory swing, I think we can all agree something's not right. We might not know what it is, but it's like your body would not create inflammation unless there's a problem. So now we can quantify and see exactly what levels. And that brainstem part that we talked about being pulled, tugged, and twisted on babies, it might be happening with adults too from their chronic stressors, but we're seeing exactly what part of the nervous system is disrupted with one scan. The second scan, we can do this on about age 5 and up, is a surface EMG scan developed by neurologists, measures the electrical tone of the muscle. So if the body's really tense or really weak, it's not about posture, it's about neurology and nerves underneath. We can see that stress and energy. And then the last scan is called heart rate variability. And it is the medical standard for measuring this thing called sympathetics. And I love that you talked about the vagus nerve. Chiropractors have been talking about the vagus nerve for forever because that brainstem, if irritated, imbalanced, not only kicks you into fight or flight sympathetics is like a gas pedal. And you need a gas pedal to drive a car, but you also need a brake pedal. The most powerful brake pedal in the entire body is the vagus nerve. It's the parasympathetics, and there's more of them. But the vagus nerve wanders its way. They call it the wandering nerve through the neck, the brainstem, innervates the heart. That's kind of important, and branches out in a million different ways into the gut. That's why we get that gut feeling, that heart feeling when we're stressed or when we're happy. It's like that's the vagus nerve, calm and connected. But if you have misalignments, again, is nutrition important? Yeah, of course. Like we have to put less inflammatory foods, but if we have a brainstem irritation, so we got to get peel back under that layer. So nutrition works so much better. Physical fitness works so much better. Hanging around positive people works so much better. Sleep is so much better if your nervous system is not in fight or flight. So that's the most foundational layer that we measure first. And that's what adjustments do. And this is my last little point. When we're putting that proprioceptive neurological input into a baby's brainstem or pregnant mom's pelvic area, or a dad that's just tired of being tired, it's like we're finding those key areas of stress, removing that so that that perfect brain and nervous system can go into healing mode rather than survival mode. That's where miracles happen. That's where liberation and like freedom happens, is when that nervous system is working for you instead of just running from a bear for decades.
Exactly, which so many of us are, and we don't even realize it. One, like you were talking about before, where so many of us are so disconnected to even how we feel. So like can't even answer, wait, how do I feel? What's happening to my body, let alone then what's happening to, people may say like, I don't feel stressed. Well, what does your body feel like, right? What is happening? And I think you made such a great point, is like, yes, you can change your nutrition. You can start working out, which are so needed. But if your, nervous system is not right, then you're missing the so many key points that you can't fully heal.
Yeah, you can be emotionally happy but neurologically stressed. So when we're measuring the stress response, we're not measuring somebody's feelings. Now we do help a lot of people with anxiety and depression because that's where it's rooted. But we're looking objectively, meaning no opinions, to find out where that body could be hiding those stresses so that we can put those puzzle pieces together. But like you said, it's like it's not necessarily something you feel. And we have a healthcare system that for decades has been solely based on how do you feel and how do we minimize that? How do you feel and how do we minimize that? It's not working. That's not an opinion. That's not a soapbox. We would be ranked number one in healthcare, in health and health statistics if medicine was working for us. And again, we consistently rank around 45 or something like that. It's just not working. And again, thank God for medications. Like I said, they're life-saving, life intervention moments, but it can't be something we consistently rely on. But lean into those symptoms. They'll tell you a lot more than you want to know sometimes. So
Exactly. And, also in the US, like some of the top ways to die, medical, like being at a hospital, taking the medications the correct way. So it just layers onto it's not working. Um, and from the statistics, that's why I'm like, if you just look at the population, we're all very sick. So shouldn't you start asking why and wanting to feel better? But I think sometimes people get in this rabbit hole. It's like, well, my friend feels tired every day, so I should feel tired every day. It's like, no, that is just because it's common, it should not be happening.
just because it's common is not okay. I say that all the time. And I genuinely feel this judgment free. Like we as a society have forgotten what good is. We don't know what a good night's sleep is, what a lot of energy is, what focus is. And we've just downgraded our expectations for ourselves. That's horrible. But when you start doing it for your kids, I just want to rewrite the legacy for generations to come. Because wouldn't it be cool if somebody said, you know what, I'm not gonna like if it is my genetics, I'm gonna have to work twice as hard. I want to set the tone and the pace and a different direction for my family, and it begins with laying that foundation, putting those puzzle pieces together, building a lifestyle strategy around it. Because at the end of the day, like I don't think God created us to be sick all the time. And if I want to give like one eye opening thing that you can see, and again, this isn't with judgment, like we have our incredibly unique, powerful, insightful scans that we do that without any opinions can measure exactly where that stress is. That's a powerful tool to have a starting point as well as a measurement point. But there's another powerful tool. And I promise you, if you open your eyes to this, you will not unsee it. It's the most bizarrely obvious thing that I see every time I go into Target, every time I scroll on Facebook, and I'm not judging. Like, again, we've all been there with our own health challenges and different things. But one of the major signs of adrenal fatigue, and again, why would the adrenals be fatigued? Because they're revving all the time. Why are they revving all the time? Because the nervous system's stuck in fight or flight. So we know the importance of hormones. Like that's what this whole podcast is about. Like we know that's important, but the hormones are 100% controlled by the brain and nervous system. Your body will tell you. It'll tell you if it's in adrenal fatigue by the dark circles under the eyes. Just today, I mean, you don't have to do it every day. I see it. I can't unsee it, but just scroll through Facebook of all those cute Christmas photos of children with dark circles under their eyes. They didn't have a sleepover last night and click on the family. And again, it's not judgment. It's just like that child is in adrenal fatigue. And it's not a small sliver of society. It's a majority of society there is a physical, chemical, and emotional perfect storm brewing out there that is waging war on our children's nervous system, sometimes from in utero throughout life. And they are winning, whoever they are. Like it's just not even close. And we're asking these tough questions of like, hey, parents, let's take the throne back from Kellogg's. It's like, and here's the thing, like I'm not mad at McDonald's. Like there's on my way to work, there's a McDonald's and a Walgreens right next to each other, and the line is wrapping around the door of both of those every single day. And again, I don't. They're selling what the people want. This is America. You can, and capitalism will always want. They're selling what the people want, and the McSalad does not work. Like nobody buys that. Nobody wants a salad at McDonald's. And again, the conversation is not going to happen with RFK and Trump sweeping in on a white horse to save us from these horrible corporations. Like, great start. Like, if you want to make your Fruit Loops healthier, or here's an idea: don't eat Fruit Loops. Like, raise your own eggs. HOA be damned. That's why I moved out here. It's like I have my own eggs. It's like, but my thing is like, or support local. Like, if you can't grow your own eggs, buy mine. I don't even really sell them, but I'm happy that like we want to provide those resources of like, let's just throw the excuses off the table. When you accept responsibility for every aspect of your life and your child's life, it really narrows your excuses. It's not up to Kellogg's, the government, or your pediatrician to fix us. It's our job. And we have to get this puzzle put together. And to me, it's health is not complicated. We are. And 2 years ago, I was 30 pounds heavier. Again, I'm not pristine clear. I made some big choices, and I was obviously getting adjusted, but I couldn't outrun my diet. I mean, I had some seed oils and some sugars and things. And I get out on this farm. I'm looking out here because I have this huge window right here. But I just got truly convicted. It was like, if I'm going to lead in the healthcare space, I kind of need to lead in my home first. I just didn't like what I saw in the mirror. And one of the most powerful moments in my health history was when I looked in the mirror and said, I don't like what I see. And body positivity and sedation would say, well, that's not affirming. Like, that's not nice. You should love your body as it is. I'm like, no, I didn't hate. I love myself enough to hate what I saw in the mirror.
And want better for myself. Exactly. I respect myself. Yes.
Yeah, and it's like there's times we all wake up and it's like, man, what do I need to do? And I just went back to the basics, and I got this conversation and mess. I was like, health is not complicated. I am. So I mean, obviously, I was getting adjusted. My testosterone levels and hormones are good. I work with you guys, but I was like, I'm going to go on a walk every single day. This was my daily non-negotiables. I didn't run. I didn't sprint. This started in January. It's actually coming right up here. I put on a weighted backpack and I walked my farm for 45 minutes every single day, even if it was raining. I decided I'm only going to eat real food. Radical thought. Yeah. Basically the whole 30, like I didn't eat anything processed. And that kind of rules out a lot of stuff. And I only drank water, preferably from our well that goes 180 feet deep. And then, I'm trying to think if I did anything else. Like that was about it. And 75 days later, 32 pounds lighter. And again, that's not just 32 pounds of fat and look better in a bathing suit. That's 32 pounds of inflammation, cancer causing toxicity. Like, I mean, there's a big, but so often we're like, what's the best workout? The one that you'll do. What's the best diet? Just eat real food. Like, what about this diet drink or this add on? Like, just drink water. Like, add some salt to it or something. But health is not complicated. We are.
Exactly. We just make everything complicated. And the good and bad of so much information, right? It can be overwhelming, and who do you listen to? And so I think, like you said, it's just like taking responsibility, doing the research, and also it can be a trial and error. Like, what works for me? How does my body feel? I think is the biggest thing. Like gut testing, right? Does your body not like spinach? Then don't eat spinach just because someone on Instagram told you to eat spinach. And so I think it really is just like you said, going back to the basics and then knowing the why. Like, you feel better by losing the weight because your brain works better, less inflammation, the toxins in your body, right? It's not just like I need to get on a bathing suit for summer, because that's not a lifestyle why of the wellness side.
I can give you some motivation for a little bit, but I've always said motivation is the drug of choice for those that aren't committed. It's like, what are you committed to? And again, it's a bit disingenuous to say health is a priority if your pantry is screaming otherwise. Or I prioritize my kids' health, and it's like they're chronically sick all the time. And it's not a judgment. It's just a tough place to ask questions. And though it's tough, it's like the outcome is life changing. It's legacy building. And to me, it's like I prioritize like my health. And one of the most unselfish things I can do, and I encourage my wife, is like take care of yourself first. You know, it's like there's nothing noble or productive about being sick and on everybody's prayer list all the time. It's like I want to be giving life, not begging for it from somebody, like, you know. And again, it's we I've been there myself 2 years ago. I was like, this isn't me. Like, and again, it's like we all, and I realized I was like, I could come up with like, I don't have time or I don't have that. It's like every good excuse and every bad excuse had the same power in my life. Like if I miss a workout because, you know, I'm just laying on the couch watching Netflix, or I miss a workout because I'm changing an old lady's flat tire, I still miss the workout. My heart and cardiovascular health don't care about my intentions. It's like we got to find out what is that daily non-negotiable standards, answering the questions of why, laying the foundation first so that we're not building on a crumbly foundation there, and then just move forward with daily execution. It's that's it.
And you do feel better. Like once you start implementing these things, you do feel better and you don't want to go back to whatever, whether it be processed food, not working out, a lot of alcohol, whatever it may be for you. Like once you start feeling better, adding your supplements in, whatever it may be your routine, and then it's like, why would I go back to that? Because people will ask, like, don't you miss X? I'm like, miss having a migraine every day? Absolutely not. And like, then like you were talking about, like, if you don't put yourself first, then how are you going to show up to your family, to yourself, to your job? Like, you can't. You're always feeling like you're going at 20%, which is not a good feeling.
Yeah, no, it's the greatest gift you can give your family and the world. And it's like we're either here for a reason or we're not. You know, if you just buy into that, this is just some random crapshoot. It's just why not sedate, unplug, and just live as a vegetable on the couch. But it's just like I just buy into the idea that like this matters. Like I want to have an impact on people's lives, especially my wife and kids. You know, it's like and lead them into a stronger future because it's like the opportunity is there. Like nobody's immune to healthy habits, meaning like you're not the exception. Like I can't tell how many people you hear over the years. I was like, well, I tried that, it didn't really work. I'm like, well, the week you tried, it doesn't undo decades of neglect, you know. So it's like nobody's immune to that, and we all have a diet and an activity lifestyle that aligns with our genetics. And again, nobody would question like if you give the diet of a tiger to a giraffe, the giraffe is going to starve and die. Like that's not advanced PhD biology there. It's just common sense. But human beings, we think we're the exception. I think I've never quite understood why we would, you know, slap the hand of a child trying to feed something to a dog because dogs don't eat that, but you can, you know, it's like, oh gosh. And, oh man, I was and again, like you said, it starts from the beginning so often. Like we said, moms are discouraged, disempowered, and told that the doctor's going to swoop in and deliver their baby. I'm sorry, but mothers deliver babies, not doctors, not doulas. Mothers do. So you have all these birth interventions, birth trauma. You have a child that's disconnected, overwhelmed. Maybe it's your milk mom. I was at Costco the other day getting these glasses here. They have good prices on glasses, and you're in that little cubicle area, and I'm just like waiting on my ticket. And I look around, and there it is. It's the Enfamil Gold formula, and it said the brain formula on it. And I was like, don't do it. It's going to ruin your day. Don't do it. And I had to go look at the ingredients. And if I could pronounce it and I knew what it was, I wouldn't feed it to my dog. So you're taking these children whose brain and nervous system is going to grow and develop more in the first 3.5 years than the rest of their life combined. And like you said, seed oils, high fructose corn syrup, soy, like which we know is a hormonal disruptor. Like, and it's like all these, it's like this kid doesn't have a chance. Again, if you went to your pediatrician, if they had sponsors on their outfit, you'd see Enfamils there. Of course, they're going to recommend that. And again, I don't think they're evil or there's some corrupt powers that be like that do that, but it's just like they don't know what they don't know. But like I tell moms all the time, I trust your gut over a doctor's diagnosis any day. And it's high. I think the next revolution in healthcare has to be, doesn't just needs to be, but it has to be from parents saying, you know what, this isn't working. I'm going to start making better decisions. I respect your opinion, but it's not going to be the facts in my family's life. Like, feel free to share, but I know what's driving your decisions, and it's not always science and information. Trust your gut, moms. Like, and answer that most important question, why, for yourself, but also for your babies, and partner with doctors that empower you. Don't tell you what to do. Don't kick you out if you don't follow their schedules. You know, it's like, how do they get away with this stuff? It's like, I can't imagine a restaurant telling you what you have to eat or get out. You know, it's just silly.
I think because we all grow up that the theory of you. the doctor knows, they're very smart. You go to the doctor, you listen to the doctor. And then it can also be kind of like nerve wracking if you ask questions to them or don't follow what they're saying. And that's why it's like so important to like on repeat to be your own advocate, because like you said, like moms know more about their babies, you know more about your health, but just trying to get into changing that conversation of, you know, the patient is the advocate, but it's changing the whole thought process of healthcare.
Yeah, and honestly, if you're in an environment that doesn't allow questions or invite questions, it's like, all right, maybe they're even right with their answers, but it's just like if you don't create an environment, if they're too rushed, if they give every single treatment and care plan medication is the same for every person, male, female, it's just like your children aren't cookie. They don't need cookie cutters. You know, it's like cookie cutter plans. It's like you need a doctor that's willing to understand. Now, bear in mind, a lot of these doctors that are this way, we're popular. We have a lot of people coming in. We might be busy, but I've always said, like, you cannot provide health care if you don't care. Like, it's just not healthcare anymore. So my thing is like, I have a 45-minute commute from my farm. I'm on the phone always. Like just having that conversation is like, hey, I can tell this is really important. And we have another doctor working with us now. There are times where I'm like, hey, can you cover those adjustments? I've got to talk with these new parents. They've been, they need that empowering moment. So partner with doctors that encourage questions. We'll make the time for you, even if it's at a different time of day, or answer emails. That's huge. Yeah.
It is huge. I know I went to the doctor yesterday. I do not go to the doctor, like, not at all. But long story short, I had to go to the dermatologist because my face got burnt from a red light mask. And she walks in and she was like, "You have this. I'm going to prescribe you this." And I literally said to her, I said, "Are you going to look at my face?" Like, she had not even looked at my face. And she was like, "Oh, yeah, I can do that." And I was like, "Do you want to see pictures of the reaction?" And she's like, "Oh, yeah, we can do that." And I'm like, why am I here? I'm like, this is why I don't. Of course, there's great doctors out there. I have an incredible doctor, but I was like, and this is what people are used to, right? You go in, have an answer, usually prescribe something, and then you have, the issues from that.
Same exact experience. This has been 20 years ago, but I used to have digestive challenges, just a weak stomach, as we called it. And I finally was just fed up with it. And this is when I lived in the Netherlands. So I was thinking maybe there's a little bit better chance to get something more natural. Didn't work out. And I was 100% commission. I say that because, like, me taking 2 hours off of work, a chunk of money. Like, that was like my paycheck coming out. So I went there because that was the only time, it was the latest appointment I get. Of course, I sit there for an hour and a half. I've got a very upset stomach, constantly. I'm trying to eat healthy and it's still not working for me. I'm like, please just do some type of, I walk in, didn't say anything, just look at, he's like, you have, and basically what it translates to is like, you have spastic colon. I'm like, I know, that's why I'm here. You just need to take this. I'm like, can we ask the question why? And it was just kind of this. Again, no fault of his own. He's just, that's, if somebody's has a hammer in their hand, the only thing they can look for is a nail, and the only nail he had was medication. But the medication would basically plug up all that toxicity and inflammation. Like, so again, if you have upset stomach, it needs to come out most likely. This is so much more than just having an awkward moment with your digestive system. Every ounce of blood in my body is formed in my small intestines. I don't want that toxicity pouring out, forming into cancer down the road. And me asking God, why did this happen to me? Because I never asked the question, why? That's up to us. So I've been there. I've been there frustrated too, but hopefully you got some answers.
I did, but it was just like such a reminder because I go to one doctor specifically for my gut, and I've seen her for years, and so then I'm like, oh, this is the norm. Um, yeah, we go a whole thing about doctors and the gut because it's fascinating, and it's so sad because we know the impact if your gut's not working right, what it can be causing, right? And it's no solutions are so dismissed. You know, what would be your advice to that people can take to their day to day for themselves and for their children to help their nervous system?
Yeah. So I try and, like I said, health is not complicated. We are, and it does take some time and repetition to retrain that nervous system. But if we have misalignments in that spine and neuromuscular junction, everything in that, if there's misalignments and stress in there, that's where a neurologically focused chiropractic adjustment happens. And again, It's not a competitive statement. I don't know how you can give a neurologically focused adjustment without some neurological scans to know exactly what and where those irritations are. So that's a great place to start.
Oh, I'm coming to get a scan from you. Yes.
Please, yeah, get those scans. That's the most foundational objective. Like, hey, that's how we give those specific adjustments. That's the foundation. And I say that because, like, is physical health important? Yeah, but if we go work out, and it's going to happen January 1st, it's going to be packed at the gyms. But if you're misaligned, stressed, and fight or flight, not sleeping and recovering, how are those workouts going to work out for you?
Exactly. You're gonna have more inflammation. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, I mean, so it's like lay that foundation, get adjusted. It's not a dependency, but it's not some sales pitch. Like I actually on a hunch looked this up and I chose my grandparents' birth year. They'd be like 105 now if they were still with us, lived long, amazing lives there too. But I noticed that like everybody in that generation had dentures or they were lucky. Like there was a lot. And I just Googled, I picked their birth year. It was like 1919. I was like, what percentage of the population brushed their teeth in 1919 with regularity? You want to guess what it was?
Probably 2%.
7%. So again, that was their so I mean low, like obviously low. It's not a radical, crunchy, weird sales pitch to say, hey, you know what, guys, this isn't working. Why don't we brush our teeth with some degree of regularity, at least once a day, preferably twice, and throw in some flossing right before you get your dental cleaning. And it works so much better. Like it works so much better. Our radical approach to healthcare is like, hey, we have this thing called a brain and a nervous system. It deals with a lot of stress. Why don't we take the proactive approach of getting a neurologically focused adjustment, which helps the nervous system adapt better to that perfect storm of stressors? So we got the foundation, and then layer, find ways to move daily. And again, what spurred all my ruck walks, those walks, was a friend of mine, and he's actually a leader in our health profession, Dr. Josh Axe. He puts out tons of articles, but he just said, pound for pound, risk for reward, going for a walk every single day is your best workout. So I said, I don't have a thing for ruck walks or walking. I just said, I have zero excuse to not go for a walk on my farm. I'm eliminating excuses. And I just kept losing weight, kept getting stronger, kept feeling better, kept better sleep. And I just walked every single day. So you don't have to do some crazy workout, just walk. And then eat real food, put in non-inflammatory foods, preferably that are found in nature, not in factories. And then just don't bombard yourself with stress. If it's a priority, it'll show up in your action, not in your emotions. Just because you say you care something, just because you have anxiety around a subject doesn't mean we're taking action on a subject. And so it's like unplug from those stressful people, especially if they're family. I hold family to a higher standards. And this is the time of year where people have to hang around people they don't like. I'm like, why? Like if it's a priority, if your health's a priority, quit talking about it and start living it. So lay the foundation, stack those things, and just watch everything with no exception. Like if your life has been a cheat day, don't take a cheat day. Like cheat days aren't working for you. It's like just eat real food. Just give it a few weeks and you'd be shocked at how much better you feel.
Exactly. And just the understanding too, it's like you give your child some candy with red dye and then they have a tantrum in 2 hours. It's like, of course, because their poor little brain is on fire right now. Like, and it's just like, it makes me sad to see because it's not the kid's fault, right? And it's just that repetition that they're in and day out.
Yeah, there's always a better option with things too. And again, it's not that my life is sugar free, but it's organic raw sugar. It's like if we're having a dessert, it's homemade. There's better ways to do exceptions. But if the foundation or food pyramid is junk, it's just the house is always going to keep crumbling.
Exactly. And like you said, you're going to feel better if you just remove that ultra processed food for a week and then you eat it the next week, you are going to feel physically sick. And then it's like, oh, wait, my body doesn't want that. Or even just like, I'm all about scents, like removing them. I'm like, you take scents away from you, that next time you see a scented trash bag, you're not going to feel well. So, what does that mean to your body? It's not doing something good in your body. I have to ask one more question before we leave. 'Cause I could talk to you for like hours about this. What are your thoughts on migraines?
Migraines. So obviously, yeah, migraines can be a little bit tougher to unwind, but I'll share like a actual person that came in that was life changing for me. It was one of those life changing cases that reminded me how important this is. And when I say this, not me, not chiropractic, but just asking that question, why? So migraines are a symptom. And I can't tell you how many people like horrific migraines to the point they want to end their life. Like it's not just a minor inconvenience; it's a horrific pain, and they'll go get an MRI, like the medical standard for finding out, and they'll be deeply discouraged that the doctor found nothing. And I always remind them, I was like, you don't want to find something on an MRI. That's you usually have to write a will if that's happening. So we've eliminated structure. Like there's nothing physically in there that's, a brain tumor or MS or some type of lesion. So we have to look deeper with the function. So often there's misalignments and stress at the brainstem. We talked about all those things the brainstem can do below with fight or flight, digestion, stress, and tension, being exhausted but unable to turn your brain off. That's a lot of moms out there. The adrenal fatigue, everything below is wreaking havoc. But a red flag of brainstem irritations is migraines. Now, there are some nutritional complexities, and sometimes there's allergies, and there's ways to test for that we have, but that's the rare exception. Our nervous system has an obnoxiously, overwhelmingly, bizarrely powerful way of adapting to all the crap we throw at it. So I've seen people, God love them, didn't change anything, healthy habits or anything, and they get ridiculously amazing results with adjustments alone. That said, of course, like please, let's stack those, but we don't try and overhaul somebody's whole life. But migraines, more often than not, you wouldn't feel anything good or bad unless the nervous system told you to feel it. So, what controls blood flow, arterial constriction, the things with migraines is the nervous system. They literally tell the. So, again, we have to get that nervous system working better for you. But, quick story, I had a 36-year-old woman, one of the first years of my practice. This was in the Netherlands. And this is zero exaggeration. She came in and just, you could see when she walked in the door, it's like, this woman's not well, like just exhausted, overwhelmed. And this is her case history. She had 4 to 5 migraines a week. And on the day she didn't have migraines, she had headaches since she was age 9. So for over 25 years, this was her life. She lost her job because she had too many sick days, and no excuses. I don't make an excuse for this man. The husband left because he didn't sign up for that. It was like, you're not there for me ever, and again, she's sick all the time, clinically depressed, anxious, and why bother if you're going to wake up every day with a migraine? And I'd love to say after one adjustment, it began with the scans, and of course her thermal scan lit up like a Christmas tree of the brainstem, lots of tension and stress, fight or flight off the charts. So now we had a plan and a path forward. I don't want to take a long journey without a GPS in my car. Same thing with neurology. Like we want to measure and map your progress. So it was about 6 weeks of consistent adjustments. And when I say it was improved, it wasn't 10% better. Headaches 100% gone. And a part of me, like everybody's celebrating, happy and excited. I couldn't be more excited for it. But a part of me to this day was still sad that for 25 years, this little girl, this teenager, this young lady, this person trying to start her life into adulthood carried the weight that just almost wanted to make her kill herself. But like I found closure and sat like joy. Thank God she was 36 and not 56, 76. And it's never too late. I know we talked about that 3.5 year window. We have ridiculously amazing results with teenagers and 7, 8, 9-year-olds with autism and 30-year-olds with migraines. Like it's never too late. Your body, your nervous system specifically desperately wants to get better, but you have to put those puzzle pieces together. But more importantly, you have to have the foundation underneath it. And that's what we do. And it's such fun. That's why I told you I don't mind going to work because I get to live this every day. It's fun to watch. And the beautiful thing about adjustments, and like when I adjust my wife and kids, it literally takes a minute. I'm not going to shortchange my wife. Like I'm not going to be like, oh, get out of here, like factory line going down. But most people love that they can go and do something. And that's what you guys do at Optimal Bio is like, that's it. Right? Yeah, that's it. I mean, it's working after you leave. Like that's that. And there are times like you do have to have a 30-minute conversation. I'm not in a hurry, but most people love the fact that we've simplified it, gone straight after this why thing and go live your life. Like you don't want to hang out. I mean, we're fun. You can come out to the farm, but it's like, you don't want to hang out. You got stuff to do. It's like, so again, it's not a huge time commitment. It's just that commitment to yourself, commitment to asking the tough question, why, and what's my role, if not every role in this healing journey, so that's why we get excited to go to work.
No, I love it. I think you summed it up right. Like I always talk about the athletes. They have a full team of wellness. And I'm like, how can we because most of us can't pay $2 million a year for our wellness team, right? But like you said, we can do that. And it doesn't take time from your day, of like, oh, I don't have the time. It's like, actually it is efficient, but it goes back to the why. And then it gives you actually back more time in your day to feel better. But like you said, all of it is just that responsibility. And it's what is the why? And do you want to feel better?
Yeah. I just had this conversation with Dr. Brandon because I was there like a week ago getting my pellets. So I talked about, I was like, look, health is not complicated. We agree on everything. We have fun every time. But it's like, if I can get my neurology right, if I can get my nutrition right, that's what, and of course my physical health, which is just going for a walk, and then the hormonal piece. And there are some factors in our environment that I can't control, microplastics, spray, and I need some help on the testosterone and the hormonal balance and that. It's like, but I don't care what you're going through, what age you are. If we can get our neurology right, our nutrition right, and our hormones balanced, if you have cancer, MS, migraines, it's like it's 99.9% of the battle. And if you're working with the right kind of doctors, when it's in that just wildly unique lane, they're going to know it's like, oh, that's where we need to go to this, one of my close friends that specializes in this. But it's like, you can't, so much of healthcare is chasing that 0.01% of a symptom. And we're just negating the other 90. It's like, if we can get neurology, nutrition, our hormones right, it's going to be a radically different year for you.
Exactly. Yes, and like you said, like, it takes about 12 months for your cells to fully, like, replicate, change and heal. So it's like such a great perspective of like, okay, if I start implementing different things within a year, I'm a different person or back to the person like you used to be, right? We're not saying like you need to be a whole brand new person, but you should be able to feel good, day to day. Of course, you're going to have off days. We all have off days, but like you said, it's never too late when you focus on these things and have the patience to be in that healing journey.
Yeah. Great thought.
Well, thank you. I appreciate all your insight. Like I said, I can talk to you all day about these things. And I'm excited to come in and get this scan.
For sure. Yeah, no, happy to have you in. And like I said, we get our eyes checked, our ears checked, our teeth checked. Why aren't we checking the most important system of our body? That's what the scans do. So if any of the audience wants to reach out, if you call our office outside of hours, it goes straight to my cell phone. We're always here for you to answer those questions. And again, it doesn't mean you're signing up for any contracts, but you're answering that most important question of why, so that you can have a path forward, and then we can walk it together. So excited to connect with you. Whether in person or on the podcast, anytime, we can dive into perinatal, prenatal, pediatrics. We can go on some tangents.
Exactly. I was like, that's what I was going to talk about. Like, I was going to talk about perinatal, prenatal. I was like, we got to do that next time because
we'll do it next time. Anytime. I love having these conversations because it's truly life-changing, but also life-giving when we can put these puzzle pieces together, because we're created for so much more. You're just not going to do anything, much less more, without your health. So that's us. That's Optimal Bio. That's this movement that's, finally creeping into the spaces of catalogs and government. And I'm excited to see it happen. But the real change happens here in our homes here.
And how beautiful is that? Like, you have the control to feel better, to, make those changes. And like you said, your nervous system touches every organ and function in your body. So
thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. This has been a production of Optimal Bio. Optimal Bio is CEO Tyler Brandon, Medical Director Greg Brandon, podcast host Tyler Brandon, production assistance by Core Media, Beth Gravencourt, Administrator, Kevin Duthu, Executive Producer. The podcast can be found on our website, optimalbio.com, on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Our theme song is Sunwave by Paradiso, provided by Epidemic Sound.